For decades, survivalists and campers have relied on plastic tarps to block rain, cover gear, or create emergency shelters. But, ask anyone who's worked in the field long enough. Those blue or green tarps never last. They tear under stress, shred in wind, and rot under sunlight. Yet, during wartime and the early industrial era, resourceful builders and soldiers used a material that outperformed modern synthetics without a single thread of plastic. It was durable, waterproof, and reusable for years. That material was recycled canvas, treated with natural waterproofing oils and waxes, the very same formula used by World War II engineers, naval deckhands and homesteaders long before nylon sheets ever existed. The origin of the forgotten waterproof fabric goes back to pre-World War II field gear. Before plastic became the go-to for everything, militaries and tradesmen used what was called oilcloth, or waxed canvas. It was made from worn-out cotton sails, flour sacks, or tent canvas coated with a blend of linseed oil, beeswax, and natural resins. This fabric formed the foundation of rain ponchos, bedroll covers, and field tarps that could withstand years of punishment in damp climates. It wasn't just strong, it was self-healing. When the fibres were oiled, they swelled under moisture, sealing the weave tighter instead of letting water through. Soldiers carried sections of this cloth folded in their packs to use as ground sheets, rain covers, or even makeshift stretchers. The brilliance of it was that it turned waste into survival gear. When canvas tents wore out, they weren't discarded. They were cut into smaller squares, re-oiled and repurposed. One tarp could serve multiple lifetimes with nothing more than occasional reapplication of wax or oil. That's something modern plastics will never achieve. The science behind why waxed canvas stays waterproof yet breathable is honestly fascinating. What made this recycled material so effective was the balance between water resistance and breathability. Plastic, on the other hand, traps moisture on both sides, which leads to mildew underneath. Waxed or oiled canvas repels rain, but allows slow evaporation, preventing that sour smell that builds up under ordinary tarps. The oil fills the gaps between fibres, but since cotton naturally swells in humidity, it becomes tighter when wet. That means rain slides off, but trapped condensation inside can still escape as vapour. The key difference is longevity. A typical polytarp lasts 6 months to a year before UV and wind damage turn it brittle. A treated canvas tarp, if maintained properly, can last 10 to 15 years. The fibres remain flexible, resistant to tearing, and repairable with heat or, just a bit more wax. It's why pre-war mechanics, explorers, and even early Arctic expeditions depended on it. How to make your own waterproof tarp from recycled materials. Creating one doesn't require a factory, only patience and, a few traditional ingredients. Start with old 100% cotton canvas, denim, or heavy-duty cotton duck fabric. Avoid synthetic blends. They won't absorb oil properly. Wash the fabric in hot water and let it dry completely. Then mix equal parts melted beeswax and boiled linseed oil. For roughly 2 square meters of fabric, you'll need about 1 cup of each. Warm the mixture until it blends into a smooth liquid. Then apply it evenly across the fabric using a brush or rag, while the material is slightly warm from sunlight or a heat source. The warmth helps the fibres open and absorb the oils more effectively. Once you've coated your tarp, you'll want to hang it or lay it flat in a well-ventilated area. Let it cure for about 24 to 48 hours, just to be sure. During this time, you might notice the colour deepening and the texture becoming a bit tacky. Don't worry, that's perfectly normal. After it has set, you can give it a light heat treatment again. Use a hairdryer or a low flame to smooth out any uneven spots. When your tarp is properly treated, you'll see water beading up and rolling off, much like it does on waxed leather boots. It's quite satisfying, really. To maintain this level of protection, you'll want to reapply the mixture every 6 months to a year, depending on how much exposure it gets. If you find beeswax a bit tricky to source, don't fret. You can substitute with paraffin wax or even natural tallow. Though I must say, beeswax really does offer the best longevity and scent. Historically, seafarers would add a bit of pine tar to the mix. This addition increases resistance against mould and UV degradation, which is particularly useful for outdoor storage covers or if you're planning on long-term use. Now, let's have a look at some real-world examples of how you can use this tarp in modern setups. You know, this kind of tarp is far more than just nostalgic, it's actually quite practical. Out in the field, it works perfectly as a ground sheet because, well, it doesn't collect condensation. If you fold it over twice, it becomes a waterproof base for sleeping bags, and you don't get that clammy feel you get from plastic. And when you hang it as a lean-to, it resists both rain and wind, all while staying much quieter in gusts, a detail every camper and soldier truly appreciated during those cold nights. Gardeners, for example, can use smaller pieces as compost pile covers, since the fabric lets heat escape while still keeping the rain out, which helps prevent nutrient loss. Farmers still rely on oilcloth sheets to cover tools and hay bales, mainly because they don't tear like polyethylene does. In emergencies, this material becomes even more valuable, honestly. A single 6 by 8 foot section can serve as a shelter, a stretcher, a poncho, or even a pack wrap. And if it gets punctured, repairs are easy. Just heat the spot gently and press a bit more wax cloth over it until it bonds. In survival situations, this self-healing property could mean the difference between staying dry or, well, getting hypothermia. So, why are modern preppers and craftsmen, rediscovering waxed canvas these days? Well, as supply chains falter and plastic waste just keeps piling up, a lot of off-grid builders and reenactors are turning back to these old waterproofing methods for a pretty simple reason. They actually work. A tarp made this way is biodegradable, sustainable, and, get this, can be created entirely from discarded materials. It represents a self-reliant system, repairable, renewable, and effective under real-world conditions. From trench engineers in the Second World War to frontiersmen crossing muddy passes, waxed canvas proved itself across generations and climates. The old ways weren't primitive, they were perfected through need. Those who understand this material aren't just embracing tradition, they're reclaiming independence from disposable gear. Bringing back the old craft keeps survival practical and sustainable. If your goal is to build reliable gear that lasts, stop buying thin plastic tarps that crumble in sunlight. Start recycling heavy cotton fabrics and treating them the way craftsmen did before the age of synthetics. The process takes time, but the results speak for themselves. A tarp that strengthens with age, resists weather naturally, and costs almost nothing to make once you have the materials. These tarps were born from necessity and refined by generations who couldn't afford failure. They remain one of the most effective, eco-friendly survival materials ever made. For those who value function over fashion and permanence over plastic, this is the way back to real craftsmanship. To learn more about forgotten survival materials, lost wartime inventions, and self-sufficient gear that still outperforms modern products, subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with others who value history built by human hands.